Creatives, community, and kind folks, welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and we are continuing our live, unscripted deep dive into world building. And we're going to world build with weather and geological events, natural environments and catastrophes, and part of nature here on Earth. But we're going to world build in our fantasy a world in which these things have completely transformed the landscape and, of course, society, history, and the way we evolve. But before we get into that, let's introduce the show. And then, of course, all of you, as co hosts in the show, are welcome to join in now or even later. So, thank you. Again, it is RPG with DBJ, and thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. Um, howdy there, Shadow, and everyone else that's able to take part in this show. Of course, we can't avoid hellscapes and volcanoes, right? That's a staple of fantasy gaming and uh, tabletop role playing games in general. I mean, of course, we have no, you're invited. We are all invited. Yeah, it's not a big deal. Uh, no, if we truly had co-hosts, we would have plenty of windows open. All of us vying for the microphone, doing battle with each other. Although that would be kind of cool. Hmm. Anyway, uh, we talked about this was sparked off of a Brandon Sanderson novel in which part of his fantasy series, the Stormlight Archives, has a world that is besieged with hurricane like forces that can rend flesh. And he has developed a landscape in this world. And then there are these things called lates, which are safe havens against the winds that always blow from, I believe it's the east to the west. And I was like, wait a minute, we can do the same thing. So I said, well, why don't we do the same thing? Now, of course, we could very easily go, well, let's steal the exact same idea and use high winds, but, you know, we don't have to do that. Uh, oh, cool. So I got to sit out today. But you've got a surprise. Cool, sweet. Hey, good morning there. Tired, need sleep, because I think I do too. Yeah. uh, love those hellscapes and volcanoes. I mean, what would Star Wars Episode 3 be without Mustafar? You know, it is much like the rain and talking about hellscapes and volcanoes. Many times, something that we, yeah, exactly. You were the chosen one, Anakin, and I've got the high ground. Without that, many times our landscape tells a story. Sometimes it's a physical story with dangers and hazards and obstacles. Other times it's a representation of sadness, which is why many times, more often than not, when they have a funeral in a television show or movie, it's raining, and the rain represents the tears from those that can and yes, those that can and cannot cry, and of course the nine hell. Yep, Planescape. You know, Avernus campaign incoming. Boom, right? Um, we love it. We love this kind of thing, and uh, but I think we can get a little deeper and also have some fun with why we love it so much. Uh, exactly. I mean, come on. We're right there, right? I mean, we'd probably be quoting the damn movie if you really think about it. Uh, as much as it's beloved or hated, yeah. But it also represents. I mean, they've revisited Mustafar, and other hellscape-like regions, and Remember, it represents the outward emotionality of the inward characters. Well, that's maybe it is a little bit too deep too early, but we'll get into it. Um, One of the things also that happens on Earth, we understand that volcanoes and side effect of earthquakes, which we may do earthquakes separately, but we'll stick with volcanoes and hellscapes. Is It's a geological thing, right? The Earth has shifting tectonic plates. They rub against each other. Plus, there's pressure from below, and when there's I'm being very generalized because this is armchairism here, okay? Um, and when the pressure builds along regions that are fragile, it will burst forth. But there, we think of volcanoes as the peaks, like in the thumbnail, right? Well, volcanic peaks, and they burst up pimples, popping, very violent and destructive, but pimples. Yeah, yeah. Hell, there's what's the movie? Dante's Inferno is a perfect example of that. Um, the explosion of back in the 80s, Mount St. Helens, the top of that mountain blew off as well. And but there are other volcanic activities which create the hellscapes. To be honest with you, that we can have some fun with. The Hawaiian Islands uh, here, islands off part of the United States, uh, are growing because of the sliding tectonic plates, and as they slide, it creates the friction. The pressure comes up, the lava comes up, making some the islands larger because of its volcanic activity. There are many islands that were created from such a thing in the Caribbean. If you go to Saint Lucia, does Saint Lucia have the twin pitons? I know I'm butchering the pronunciation of that, which are basically two mountain spikes, and they are volcanic. And you can actually go to see one of the sulfur springs, which stinks, but you can actually go to and see the sulfur springs with steam coming out and such. Scared me a little bit because I'm like, this. We're literally there's a whole society living on an island that's just basically one big volcano. So um, we can how these people survive. Now we know that in volcanic regions that the land below at the base of many of these volcanic um, because of the carbon and such, that it can be very rich. The soil can be very rich, and if we wanted to add that in, that there are actually places where growth, the soil, of food, nutrients, and things could be grown. We could add that into this world as a reason for people wanting to even be around the base of these volcanoes, because I could see, whole societies going, yeah, why would we live here? Let's leave and go as far away as possible. But it could be just natural food products are grown there. Now it could be the societies are far away from the volcanoes as far as they could logically go, but there's long wagon trains or travel or something like that to the regions to get the food to bring back to society that's in a safer place, which would have a built-in guild already, guild faction role in society for people to farm or hunt and gather rather around the bases of these volcanoes to feed their population. Yeah, Death Angel even says, yeah, there are volcanoes in the universe that are frozen or have other materials being erupted as well in our own solar system. Yeah, what is it? Cryovolcanoes? On mm, on cryovolcanism on Titan? Is it Titan? Cryovolcanism. Earth. Cryovolcanism can be defined as the eruption of liquid or vapor phases, with or without entrained solids, of water or other volatiles that would be frozen solid at the normal temperature of the icy satellite's surface. Erupts gases such as liquid water, ammonia, and hydrocarbons. And collectively referred to as cryolava. It's kind of cool. I believe there's one that erupts into Jupiter's region. Anyway, yeah, Titan Europa. Yep, yep. It's kind of cool. Included in obsidian ore, of course. Yeah. Volcanic soil is often very fertile, and depending on how we would like to divide up society. Of course, there may be a growing, thriving society at the base of a volcano based on how volatile volcanoes are, since we're world building with this. But again, it might also be extremely dangerous, as in, hey, we need this material, goods and nutrients, foods, things of that nature to bring back to our larger society. But how dangerous is it to gather it, to stay there? Is there farming, or is it based mostly on hunting gathering? I don't know. And yeah, hydrocarbons, the stuff of life, of course, of course. Yeah, as I've said before, I think life is probably abundant in our universe, but like down to the mold, amoeba. Uh, I think it's that kind of life that we'll find more often than not in space exploration. The whole type of aliens and stuff, I think that's a little not far fetched, but will be a rarity in the universe. But I think life itself is probably out there. Lots of carbon, oxygen. Yeah, that that that's my armchair opinion. Now, uh, these volcanoes, since we're talking about hydrocarbons and cryovolcanoes, we don't have to stick with the classic hot magma lava. It could be erupting lots of very valuable resources. As a yeah, yeah, so I'm inclined to agree. Life at some level is probably fairly prevalent, and that's what I think. Bacterial life, viral life, uh, that kind of thing. I think that kind of life is probably more prevalent than a little bit in the universe. Like we would find it on moons and Mars, like in our own solar system, and then of course beyond that. So anyway. That's what I think. Tardigrade level kind of stuff. Um, but volcanoes absolutely positively erupt, uh, at least from here on Earth, minerals and things like that. It's heavily heated, so I could see a guild of forgers and those I don't know in a fantasy realm how they would be wrapped in heat resistant things, but we could do that. They could very well have long rods collecting with scoops on it, collecting the ore and the lava out of various volcanoes, and individuals that can kind of instinctually or through skill or even arcanely see the materials that have erupted and know that something can be forged out of it, like weapons and armor and heck, building materials, nails and pots and pans and things like that, built out of the already liquefied metal that comes out of the volcanoes in the first place. Yeah, I agree with you there, Destiny. Now, it may not be what we are traditionally used to when it comes to life. I agree with that too. We may find things that are that fall into what we define as life, and there may be things that are alive that change our definition of what life is. Yeah, I'm with all that. I'm with all that. Tired Needs Sleep says on one day humans will expand throughout the galaxy and evolution will begin again. Yeah, you'll then get different evolutions of humans that look and um, react different to different environments. Yeah, I agree with that. We will genetically diverge from each other. Um, no, no, we'll be different brands of humans. It'll probably start pretty soon. I mean, you start getting people living on the moon and space hab and Mars and such. I can see that. Can't avoid Star Wars, right? Yeah, I think intelligent life is much more rare, but it's still likely out there. I think numerically you can't avoid intelligent life, but I think distances and times make it very our likelihood of bumping up against other intelligent life. Ooh, yeah. Hey, what about Beskar? Yeah, I hear it's fairly valuable. Yep. Yeah. Tired DC says, yeah, that's what I meant. Types is bad today. No, no, no. I didn't mean. I don't. You guys know. I don't care about that part. I'd rather get your meaning, and I understand that whether you're typing or using voice or I don't know, hell, you're on a train somewhere or drive, whatever. I get it. I get it. I'm not here. My purpose here is not to phonetically embarrass anyone. I love your brilliance, so I get it. Yeah. But talking about the best car thing, I mean, could we have volcanoes that are tinged with different colors and aspects to them that people will travel far distances to get to that volcanic activity to acquire the resource because it's far easier. I mean, within this society, far easier to just get it out of the volcano as it pours down the side than it would be to mine for it, dig it up, create a forge or foundry or something, separate it, scoop it off the top, then build, where you can just take a big scoop and just, you get like 5 people with a big long metal rod and a bucket at the end of it, and you scoop it up out of the thing, and then you start to maybe literally forge it on the shores of the lava rivers or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. I'm with you there, Shadow. Yeah, I should have brought it. I should have made this a sci-fi show. We'll have to definitely deep dive into this one too, because I think we're all on the same page. Whether it comes to theoretics, whether it comes to imagining the future and stuff. Yeah, humanity will adapt and evolve to its environment somewhat, and being humans will also adapt our environment to us, which is kind of funny too. How do you see? Haha, I'm actually on the train. I see that. I could tell by the way you're typing that the train's shifting back and forth. No, I'm just. Shadow says, we are one of the few creatures that will do that, change our own environs to suit ourselves. I thought I was the only person that used the word environ. Uh, it's in one of the bumpers. I put my cinematic environ logo up on there. You can catch it if you see it. But yeah. It also, I would also say that trying to change our environment to fit us is it's the positive negative side of it, right? Because on one hand, it's amazing because we are brilliant enough to do it as a society, and but the negative part of that is uh, we often attribute it to stagnation because then it means that the outside influences then no longer shape us. We are shaping it. And that's where we get a lot of like the old school, new school, young folks don't know what it's like to do the thing because we keep um, incrementally, we keep making life better for ourselves. And maybe access to everyone might be rare, um, but incrementally, all life is getting better for human beings in general, overall. So, you don't, yes, there are people suffering around the world. I get it. But like I said, overall, the standard of living now collectively is better than it has been. And every year it keeps getting better. We of course, are fallible, so we keep making it worse for ourselves. But yeah, but I definitely agree with that. I don't know. Which brings to mind, I wonder if like the greater nations of this world. I mean, if you could um, define maybe the true test of boldness and manhood and things like that, oftentimes are related to very physical, dangerous treks and whatnot. So there could be safe havens, not too many, maybe literal handful, 5, maybe not too much more than that, that are where the larger nations are at. But to get from one place to another, maybe war is rare but deadly because the ones who are able to shape the bronzes and coppers and tins and aluminums and metals and alloys in this world are the ones that are really able to dominate the landscape. So the people in this world start shaping the landscape, city of grass, anybody, um, to the way they want, that makes them resistant and actually, move the flow of the lava and shield their cities from eruptions and things like that. All of a sudden now they start like multiplying their power because once it goes from once a society goes from survival mode into like growth and acquisition mode, maybe it starts to take off. And so there might be uh, roving, it's weird to say, roving bands of conquerors that are using like metallic steam powered defensive machines and things of that nature in this world, that can roll across this harsh, broken landscape. Whereas, and then of course, dominating people that are in the fertile lands at the base of these volcanoes, taking taking everything they have and then moving on. Yeah, yeah, I think some of those concepts were exhibited in the Expanse. Yep, with the three different humans: Earth, Martian, and Belters. Just listening to some reviews of the Expanse, going over it again. It's such an excellent show. It's it's. I wish we would talk about the Expanse in the same way we talk about Star Wars and Star Trek and other science fiction, and it should be. It's it needs to be carved up on the mountainside of the monument to these sci-fi things. I wish people found it because initially it didn't grab a lot of people, and then it shifted from what is it, Sci-Fi Channel here in the states to Amazon Prime, which I think it's still there. And yeah, sorry if it's Sci-Fi. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to hard push us back. We'll talk about. You know what? All right, next week we'll do it. We'll do sci-fi next week. All week next week we'll just do sci-fi. So it's your fault. But yeah, heck, even in this, we always talk about we have to have fantasy, and I was about to use infanticize. Um, we have to have fantasy in our world, and I could see the shaping, moving, and protection against the volcanoes being an extremely powerful thing. Even more powerful would be someone that can create clean, potable water, ice, coldness, separating individuals. Although, yeah, you're look at you, gonna break your arm trying to pat yourself on the back. Like you're welcome. Yeah, we'll do sci-fi next week. We'll do the sci-fi. My version of Earther, Belter, Martian, uh, which eh, somewhat similar, somewhat different. The different factions. My setting, you got me distracted, incorporates. There's like a trillion people that live in the solar system, trillion plus, really, and which seems it seems like it's a number that's too high, but it's not actually. And there's mathematically there's almost 300 moons. We've got plenty of planets and asteroids to live on, and probably 5 times that many artificial habitats that were built. So you start when you start dividing a trillion people amongst our entire solar system, it's really not that many people, especially if you go far future and stuff. But yeah, elbow room, got to get some elbow room. Mm-mm-mm. Reminiscing. So the I could also see the as volatile as the volcanoes are, you start mixing with magic. Maybe there are some that the cost of having power over these volcanoes is the slow, like burns. I'm imagining people who are uh, slowly being covered in the ore. Yeah, Drew. Yes, including the system. Yes, went from 2D12 to 2D6. I'll explain why. Maybe you guys can convince me otherwise. But yeah, you. Yeah, there's even an adverb noun system. Um, yeah, um, action are verbs and subjects. That's not going to be listed how it's listed in rules, but you get what I mean by that. Yeah, most instead of defining every single action you can take, it's basically just a verb and a subject, um, stuff like that. And once I did that, I was like, oh, well, this makes a lot more sense. So yeah, no more combat. It's all down to conflicts. Uh, on the fantasy side, I can see a lot of fire related species. Yep. Genasi, giants, elementals, snakes, ifrit, um, methods, salamanders, dragons, etc. Yeah, and then of course we can even reskin, reuse, repurpose a lot of the other things that aren't fire related. Um, don't forget the classic fire beetles. Remember the old class? You guys don't. I don't know if you guys ever remember the old classic fire beetles, and they only existed. Not only. Fire beetles had two glands on their backs, and they could glow. And if you killed the fire beetle, you could collect the goo in their glands and use that as a source of light in the dungeon, which was the whole purpose of the fire beetles, to collect the glands so that way you didn't need to have torches or lanterns if you found a fire beetle and killed it. Or, I don't know, asked it for its goo. I don't know how that worked. But yeah. Yeah, I think there's also so many other things as well. Not to mention the fact that we the volcanism could exist and we could still have other ecological things going on, forests, swamps, arctic lands, tropical regions that are of course blasted by all of the volcanoes, and we don't know how new the volcanism is. Like if it's only a generation or two old, that means it's probably pretty damn active. And if our world is, or continent is overwhelmed by this, much like George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones, where Volantis was destroyed by 14 volcanoes. It could be a supermassive continent that just happens to be erupting, and people have to like settle down and keep moving, settle down again and keep moving. So I think a predictive guild, oracles, people who know, like can put their ear or hands to the ground to understand if there's going to be new developments, would probably be very important as well. Um, Juices, I'm sure Druid could have milked that fire beetle goo. Yeah. Uh, we may not want to watch them milking it, but I'm sure we'd like to get the results. Yeah. Phoenixes and hellhounds. Yeah, we'll get to use all that kind of stuff. And as a matter of fact, yeah, water plus fire equals steam, smoke. Oh, you're talking about the para elemental realms as well. Not that it has to be, but you could we could divide up magic into different um, end result of what volcanism has. So it wouldn't just we don't just have to have pyromancers. We could have earth shapers and I know going towards Avatar, right? Earth shapers, ones whose magic derives from smoke or steam. We could have uh, lava itself could be different than fire as well. Not only that, but you have like acidic sprays and geysers and things like that. Hell, there are volcanoes that have erupted so high into the sky that it caused um, electrical storms in the upper atmosphere. And so, yeah, we could divide up a lot of that stuff. I mean, imagine a wizard or caster or magician or something like that that can form like, or even a martial class that could form weapons out of the lava. So the lava is like the lava may in their hand just be a ball of like odd metal that they heat up, and then they take their hand and form it into a big weapon like a staff or a sword by just sliding their hands across it, making it an edged weapon. And then with their, with the flare of their soul, it heats up and it starts to like spark off of their enemies as they strike them and slice through them or something like that. And then at the end of it, they just crush it down into like this metal orb or something, and they rub it across their hand like a gauntlet or whatever. Yeah, I could see all kinds of different, like, visually, I can see all kinds of amazing things that happen. Um, there may be a guild of lava river sailors that have these well protected stone or metal, um, shallow depth boats that they push across these lava streams that are super hot. Yes, I get it. Human beings being exposed to the heat, even that close to some of these lava rivers of lava, is pretty dangerous. But maybe we could get through something. Hell, it could even be a ball that locks down, and you walk on the inside of the ball like a hamster to get to the other side, and then open up the hatch on the other side or something. I don't know. I don't. That sounds pretty. That sounds just even more horrible than a boat, uh, but a lot of those things. Yeah. Something we often don't. Yeah, violent lightning from that. Yeah. Oh, sure. A major volcanic eruption that throws material into the atmosphere will cause static charges to build, resulting in lightning. Yeah, some violent lightning. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. Uh, Sometime. Okay, fantasy and undead is very. It goes hand in hand, right? Skeletons, zombies on the lowest levels. We've got ourselves vampires and ghouls and ghosts, but we often don't relate them to the death rites that they are associated with. So we think of the undead with crypts, but actually around the world and even here, we don't have the exact same death rites to achieve the goal of the classic undead. Now, it doesn't mean undead can't exist, but maybe, for example, in this world, we have death rites in which people are set afire. Sometimes they're put on river boats, and then the riverboat is set afire, aflame, and whatnot. But maybe in this world, people who haven't performed the proper death rites, they become flame-like spirits, or semi-humanoid lava-like magma beings or something like that. That could be very dangerous. So instead of like a ghost that you wake up in the night and ghost, maybe it's something made out of smoke and flame and fire or what have you. um, and it could be a version of the undead. Yep. And Shadow says, I do see a cleansing of the dead or undead in a way as well, especially if um, an event like Pompeii happened, where a volcanic eruption happens that wipes out a community so swiftly that they didn't have the time to react. Instead of a curse of sorts, that could be like, there's rumors about this one volcanic region where maybe the lava spewing out of it is like blackened and gray or something, and that there are like these ghostly spirits that are around it, and the ghostly spirits are they burn you when they find you and whatnot. Maybe it's not just necrotic, maybe it's something else, and we could, like, shape things the way we want them to be shaped. Um, Also, players traveling around this world, who's to say that you travel in one direction and the landscape's one thing, and then when you come back, on your way back, it might be completely different, blocked by lava streams. Um, Hell, I would absolutely design dungeons if you want to do a classic dungeon crawl, but make it open air. So instead of, because I don't think you'd want to delve down deep in caverns if you really had the opportunity. But I could see an overland, whether you want to do hex crawl, point crawling, or something like that, and instead of rolling random tables with random encounters, it could be random geysers, poison gas, acidic lakes, um, debris falling from the sky, the ground shaking, crevices opening up, lava flows creating rivers that might cut the party off, and things like that. I would throw a ton of that stuff into tables to have that also be an element of the world. So, you know, fighting goblinoid bandits on the road might be dangerous, but fighting goblinoid bandits on the road where there's also burning debris falling from the sky, and having to split your attention between the enemies in front of you and the things, the flaming adhesive molten ore falling from the sky as well, may be pretty different and kind of cool. Um, Heck, the cleansing fire, pushing the undead back into the lava fields might be a very important tactic as well. Also, hmm, uh, smoke, steam, acidic clouds, ashen fields. Maybe there's like um, uh, blasted ash that blows across the landscape that may be very important. I'm going to look something up. Uh, see if we can find some ash on the skin. Ash can be used on the skin for a variety of purposes, including volcanic ash, a popular ingredient in skincare products. Volcanic ash can be used as a cleanser, exfoliator, oil remover, purifier. Volcanic ash is soft and finely textured, making it a gentle exfoliator that removes dead skin cells, unclogged pores. Volcanic ash is also antibacterial, anti-yeast, antiviral, and has disinfecting properties. However, acidic volcanic ash can cause skin irritation, especially for some people. Here we go. I'm going to share an image out here. It just made you guys made me think of it. So here we have some images of people using um, volcanic ash on their skin for like tribal purposes and things like that. So I very much like uh, in the Black Panther movies, there was a tribe of, and this is based on real life. They're a tribe of people that use a red like mud on their hair and skin to for adornment and protection as well. And I very much could see people using ash to protect their skin. Maybe the same way we think of alchemical purposes, we can think of ash the same way. People collecting like acids and other volatiles that come up from the ground and putting them in ceramic pots that they carry with them, rubbing the ash on their bodies to have certain effects, and maybe even different colors of ash. Like there's a gray ash, and there's a red, and there's a black, and there's a like each one could protect the body, or even grant some kind of other arcane abilities and things. Again, using the steam and smoke, maybe there's an ability to capture it or collect it and then use it uh, for other purposes as well. Like for example, um, the druidic peoples that rub it on their skin. Not only are they like resistance against the flames and fires, uh, well, now it's making me think of something else. Like for example, instead of dragonborn, maybe instead of different species types, you could have a humanistic realm, but the results of the materials that they use for different or factions, tribes, communities allow them different things. Like the red ash gives them what the abilities would be of a red dragonborn, even though they aren't necessarily real dragonborn, if that makes sense, right? Um, like you could just rename it and just make these different types of human beings doing different types of things, but just use the species and races that would normally in fantasy, just make everybody just humans. They just happen to live in different places, and maybe even be able to shift between one and the other based on the skills acquired from the communities that they live in. Also, I think in a uh, uh, volcanic, volcanistic type of region, especially if it's brand new. There might be, again, a number of lost or abandoned uh, remnants of old civilization, and then going and finding those old civilizations and things like that. Death Angel Shadow says, don't forget about the legitimate physical uses of volcanic materials. Okay. Some say the reason Romans were able to develop their concrete was directly due to volcanic environments of their area. Yeah, yeah, I could see that very much so. Meaning, like you know, some of the I'm going to say advanced technologies could come from the volcanoes, like you said, concrete, bricks, um, the forging of metals and things of that nature. I mean, visually to me, it would sound fun to make this very much like a Bronze Age sword and sandal type of environment, and then every once in a while you will come across these like higher, I'm air quotes, higher tech, where they're using like steam power. Maybe they have more alloyed steel and iron and such, which would be pretty interesting. But yeah, and and um, and I could see both existing at the same time, because the more stable and centralized the community is, the less, of course, they're going to move. But then you also have speed and quickness and adaptability from the nomadic groups that can move around when because the land is so unsettled. And I could see them both vying for power and having their advances, because we know in our the development of our societies here on Earth that you know, our society skyrocketed in advancement once we settled down. But in this world, maybe settling down isn't the smartest thing to do, or at least not the best for the larger populations. Um, like, I could see growing pains as communities get larger and larger. Maybe these city states start developing so big that they actually grow into dangerous regions. Like for example, here in Ohio Valley, we have people that live in flood zones, and it's like the city state can only get so big because then people are literally living in the the unsettled region. Like, maybe there's thin ground, and if you put your houses on the thin ground, it'll fall into the earth and get swallowed up by the gouts of fire or something like that, and it's very difficult. Yet Shadow says, I mean, there are still Roman aqueducts standing today. That's right. Over 1,000 years later, we still can't create concrete as durable as theirs. Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, we have whole channels. Yeah, the Coliseum is still standing. Yeah, yeah, you're right. We have whole channels, the History Channel, dedicated literally to trying to explain how the hell mathematically ancient peoples were able to move stones so far away, and um, you know, make bricks so close together you couldn't get razor blades through them and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, architects. I mean, the ability to build in these kind of regions would be probably pretty important and amazing still. And listen, that's done without magic, unless we believe magic existed, right? So we don't even need to have magic to explain why some of these constructed communities even exist in the first place. You know, just people are just that good. The math is that great. I wonder if like navigating through the stars could lead the people to certain places. Yeah, our ancestors weren't as dumb as we thought. I agree. Also, I think maybe we might be playing down just people being geniuses. Like, um, maybe our own modern day sensibilities are holding us back from the genius ability we have to do things in the future. Like, for example, today we don't have as much of a need to learn languages, but back in the day, people learned languages like multiple languages because they needed to survive, to communicate with people from different regions and such. And I wonder if like our modern sensibilities are keeping us from using our minds that way. or we're playing up ourselves. Yeah, I don't know. Mm-mm-mm. Don't know. Um, yeah. What are some amazing things that we can? What other things we could do? Ooh, I wonder if like there is an honor. The burnt. We often look at people who have certain. I'm trying to be nice, and I can't find any nice words, so I'm going to use it this way. But I mean this in a good way. Because so follow me on this, guys. That people with burns and deformities and things like that are often derided in some societies. Okay, but in this one, it could be a sign of honor, so that burns and things, people that have suffered those harms might be have a higher honor class based, especially if they suffered that harm because of their works, good works for the community. And so maybe elders and mentors and teachers in this realm have have burns and scars on purpose or not. Maybe they could be very artistic or from accidents and things, and it could be even the side effects of being able to manipulate the power of the lava itself to garner that power. So even the greatest mages are covered in burns and scarring, and they have those I don't know another word for it, the where the skin is burned and you have the blotches and things like that on the skin. And that may be very common, especially starting from the hands and growing up the body and whatnot. I think that'd be kind of cool to see. It could even be seen as a sign of beauty as well. There are people who are models, fashion models that have it's a skin disease, but it's looked at as very attractive. I think it's cool, just like freckles. I think they're cool. There were literal trade languages that existed: art imitating life, or life imitating art. Yep. Yeah. Hell yeah. Absolutely. Shadow's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm a conservative. I'm used to it. So funny. I would that language problem is mostly just the U.S. Yeah, most of the world has populations that learn multiple languages. I agree with you because we statesiders are physically removed from exposure to a lot of different languages, and most of the people that come here that bring and import many of the languages end up just adopting the hodgepodge, the pigeon that is just American English. So yeah. Des Angel says, "Oh, I wonder if there's something similar to the lightning patterns, but with burns." I could see that. Like, wow. I wonder if you could find patterns in a fire as chaotically as a fire burns, and then people can draw those patterns on the skin or other materials that it is its own language. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kind of have a link between a world blasted by storms and one blasted by volcanism, right? Yeah, I could. That actually makes a lot of sense. I wonder if you could start a fire, and if you watched it closely enough, the way it burns becomes predictable. So a you could read a pattern in the fire. That'd be awesome. Yeah, you're wrong. Says, what about small volcano geysers making each step across the terrain unstable and dangerous? Oh hell yeah! If we want to get down to the ground level of like players having to navigate the world, and like I said, an open air dungeon. I mean, the, um, you're bringing to mind in my head, like, it seems like it's solid earth, but it's actually thin. And every time you take a step, like boiling steam or acidic gases or fire or something could erupt and blow out of the ground, or maybe the ground like a frozen lake could crack the ice. Maybe the earth itself could crack and become like floating islands of earth, and the players have to like their steps. Every time they take a step, if they don't move fast enough, their step becomes just a glowing burning step, because as it starts to sink in, and then there's maybe solid pieces of earth floating on top of the lava, and they got to jump from one island to another as the cracks in the ground start to widen and expand and stuff. Yeah, oh yeah, I absolutely, hell's yeah. I mean, you could do it randomly, you could do it um uh stimulatingly. That's a terrible descriptor. So in the cinematic environments books that I wrote for a while ago for Drive Through RPG for Critical Hit Publishing, um, there were different methods to do things, and one of those was an if then. So listed under the environments, there was an if then, like if you do this, then this thing might happen. So the players walking across this landscape that Your Wrong mentions, you know, if they walk slowly, then they're going to sink into the lava, which would in force people to move fast. But moving fast might be dangerous as well, because you don't want to trip and fall and that kind of stuff. So I like all that. Yeah. Dejayla says, yeah, I could see it easily being the same world, to be honest. Yep. Oh yeah. I was you when you said that, I was like, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, let's be honest. Most gaming worlds could all exist on the same planet if you just make supercontinents, right? Because we don't, in fantasy worlds, despite the fact we go to other worlds, we have Spelljammer and traveling and things like that. To be honest, most players don't walk that far. If we honestly looked at a map and a supercontinent and had our players, I mean, we come up with reasons to get them from place to place, teleportation circles and dimension dooring and magic items and things like that. But to be honest, most of the time players don't actually travel that far, unless we just say, oh, 2 months later you get here. And then we put a pin in the map and say you're right there, right? And it's 28 hexes to the north or something like that. So yeah, we could make just super giant continents, and that's it. Volcanic areas that release ash and debris into the atmosphere that in turn results in those highly charged particles. Yep. And lead to lightning, rapid weather fluctuation, dust storms, etc. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm going to bring her name up again. C.S. Friedman. She has a Cold Fire trilogy. And in it, there was this idyllic, dare I say, utopian paradise that humanity found. And then 1,000 years later, it was like we're talking about. Deserts, volcanoes, dust storms, lightning. Yep. Kind of all interrelated. Yep. I agree. Earthquakes, storms, they call these tsunami smashers in this world. And maybe, just maybe, maybe there's a real reason why this world is in such harsh environmental conditions. It could be, hey, the more people use magic, the worse it gets. It could be deific, meaning like the deities did battle with each other, and the deities of the elemental worlds or something were slain, and things like that. Yeah. Ain't that the truth, right? Utopia, yeah, never trust a utopia. Yeah, because most of them are pretty damn bad, right? Utopias tend to turn very dark very quickly, don't they? That's funny. Well, yeah, earthquakes are closely related to volcanoes are closely related to earthquakes, which I thought we could do earthquakes separately, but Yeah, I don't know. They could be their own thing. There are places that are earthquake prone without volcanoes. Hey, hey, California, hi. um, but yeah, yeah, there's so many different environmental effects. It's so funny because, funny in a dark way, that the United States is looked at one way, but those of us that live here look at it differently because we've got we've got like a cornucopia of all of these geological and weather events that happen in the United States that are pretty damn lethal, and yet the United States is still looked at as this like, oh, it's the streets are paved in gold, it's a paradise. And those of us that live here are like, nah, it just depends on where you live, right? Now we've adapted to it in the best ways we can, but yeah, a lot of it is like, yeah, a lot of it's pretty damn dangerous and pretty amazing. Sorry, this is the cryovolcanism uh, image. If I could, let's see, if we can get one. Uh, yeah, one. It's hard to find a really good image. Mm-mm-mm. Here's a cryovolcanism on the Earth: origins of a spectacular crater in the Yamal Peninsula, Russia. Gases with water underneath that, thawed rocks under that, under the Earth. The thawed rocks probably heat the water, expelling the gases out, crushes the Earth above it. It sinks down into the thawed rocks, and then the thawed rocks spill out from the Earth. So, okay. All right, okay, okay. All right, okay. Science Direct. Let's see if we can pull this. You can't really see it. There we go. That's cool. Yeah, upwell warm ice. I think it's the yeah. We'll talk about the cryovolcanism with the moons that are warm on the inside because of the gravity, and it makes the warm ice melt into water. The warmness flows up from the center of the moons towards the surface and breaks forth, and then makes the volcano, and then the whole thing happens all over again. Yeah. Hey, I've got a really long driveway that I'd be thrilled to be repaved. Gold would be more than acceptable. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying from I think outsiders from the United States think that like the United States is basically Chicago, New York, Miami, oh maybe a fifth place, Texas and California. That's it. They don't really think about the rest of it. They just think like, can't you just drive from New York across the river to like California? It doesn't work that way. Yeah. Um, Hell, we did a whole series on world building with the United States, like the different communities and how it was settled and things like that. I think we get it. We could get a little bit deeper with it if we really wanted to, using the different states as a building platform, like the Florida Man, and using Florida to world build or something like that. You know what? Putting it in my back pocket. Maybe we might do that. Picking different, maybe even picking states that people don't normally think of, like a South Dakota, a Montana, a Tennessee, a Rhode Island, or something, and like pick some of its stereotypical features. Very stereotypical, of course, in world building, but pick some of its features and go like, hey, if we made this in a fantasy realm, what would it be like? Like, why would the community exist that way? Hell, we got to definitely do like Salem, Massachusetts, things like that. Maybe there's some historical events that we can take. Like, the what if witching was a real thing? You know, and there are many people who are like, what do you mean? What if it was a real thing? Of course it was real. But but I digress. So yeah, we're at the end of the show. You guys get it. Using I also I think the point I'm trying to make, if I even have a point, is that um, the volcanoes in Hellscape we're talking about, and how we quickly moved over into like the expanse, where the environment itself is a character. It has its own flavor, its own dangers and hazards. It represents the overriding horror threat over top of our players and the very world that they live in. Oops. And I could see as a when players when we are world building and we suffer from our world builders disease, world building syndrome, that as we're world building, that if we keep in mind that our world is a character and it should have an impact on the stories that we tell, that it really makes it yeah, it really makes it stand out. It'll make your world stand out more than somebody else's. So in other words, like for those who aren't sci-fi fans, and I really think you should be, you got to watch The Expanse, and how dangerous and how unique space is. The void of space, the radiation, the zero gravity, the how ships travel through space, how much consideration everybody has to give it whenever trying to perform any kind of activity. And you go, oh man, that's so damn dangerous. Jeez, it's crazy. Um, uh, a perfect example is the season of the show. I think it's the third season where um, many people in their spacecraft got injured, and because they were in zero gravity, they couldn't heal because they all had internal bleeding. I mean, the problem is internal bleeding is rampant when it comes to zero gravity, and they had to spin the drum of the behemoth, which is a giant-sized space habitat, and they had to start spinning the drum to create a spinning gravity, and and how so many people watched the show were just like, including myself, was like, I hadn't thought about that. If you receive an internal wound or a cut in zero gravity, it may not bleed outwards because of gravity. It may bleed internally into pockets inside of your body. And I was like, ooh, yeah. Shadow says, I really need to binge The Expanse. I've seen many episodes, but not continuously. Oh, there's so much detail in that show. And I guess if I watch it now, it'll be like my third watch through. And there's a lot of details they include in it that are just like, wait, what? Did I miss that the first time? Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of details in the show. It's really good. It's really, really good. Uh, Shadow says, my driveway here in Tennessee from the house to the nearest street, a U.S. highway, is at least as long as a city block in New York or any other major city. Yeah, yeah. Which is why in giant cities like California, New York, and all those major cities that are in those states, they don't measure distance. I'm sorry, they don't measure travel by distance. They measure it by time, right? Because if you live there, it'll say, oh, it'll take me 2 hours to get there. But in the Midwest, we go, oh, it's 30 miles away, because we can just get on a pretty easily get on a major highway and just drive, 60, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour to get there. But in a major city, it's like stop and go traffic, so you measure it by time, not distance. Yep. Space Mormons, yep. Yeah. Which is kind of funny because for the most part, like a lot of science fiction, real religion gets pushed off to the side, and the fact they had Space Mormons was kind of cool. Yeah, I like that. I like that show. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. For those who catch this later, please, hey, like, share, subscribe, that kind of thing. Would really appreciate it on this side of the interwebs. And um, I don't know. I hope if you spend any of your valuable time here, I hope you we here can make some change in your tabletop role playing experience. I wish we got a little bit deeper into volcanism. Got a little squirrely there, but I think you get the point, right? Like, um, as far as using these elements in your back pocket to make things dangerous, interesting, um, getting rid of the analysis paralysis by making players have to make hard choices. Do we walk? Do we move slowly by taking all of our heavy gear with us in this volcanic region, or do we run our asses off and drop all of our ill-gotten goods to get the hell out of here because we know the ground's going to open up into a big flame-filled crevice or something like that? Yeah, Shadow says I can be in Atlanta, Nashville, or Huntsville in 3 hours. Cincy in a little more, 4.5 hours, etc. Yep. For me, if I go with 8 hours, I can be in Canada, uh, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Atlanta, and Chicago in an 8 hour drive. And I think you're similar. I think you could get to what is it, Middle Florida, probably, and as maybe Texas. Are you? If you did an 8 hour circle, I bet you could get to Texas, things like that. At least like Eastern Texas, maybe like a Frisco, something like that. Shadow says it works both in sci-fi and fantasy. I agree. I agree, definitely. If you have this, and you know what, it can also, in a weird way, it can also replace the big bad evil guy. Like a lot of times in fantasy, we have like vampire lords, wizards, dragons, demons, devils, fiends, and some kind of like big bad that's the threat of the world. But sometimes the character of the world itself um, is the character of the world itself is such a danger that you don't need a big bad evil guy. It's hell. It's just freaking survival to do the thing. I think that's why like Hellscapes, um, pirate ocean liner, high seas adventures work really well. Space travel works really well because the environment can definitely, like Shadow said, yeah, the environment can definitely be the big bad evil guy, the BBEG, and that allows us to keep telling more stories without having to raise the stakes too much because the environment is always a threat. It's always a danger. It's always giving us something new and throwing a new threat at us that we have to deal with. And that means we don't have to keep making, oh, the vampire lord's got another vampire lord above them. Oh no, there's five vampire lords above them. And after a while, you're just like, okay, enough is enough. But if the world is a danger itself, you could tell so many stories. Um, like, for example, with the future release of uh, CN CNGH, cool name goes here, tabletop role playing game. I'm part of the Kickstarter, one of the developers of it, and cool name goes here is a free rule set to be given out to the community. It was after the whole WotC debacle, and you can design any fantasy game in it. We'll probably do a sci-fi version of the same thing, depending on how people like it. The rules are online, the whole 9 yards. And I was thinking of a fantasy world where the whole purpose are the players keep you have to keep traveling because a cataclysm happened in the horizon behind the player characters that's destroying the world, and they have to keep moving forward. You can't stop. You have to keep moving. And that's the whole we have all the fantasy landscapes, mountains, swamps, deserts, blah blah blah, right? But the one constant is can't, can't sit still. The all of society is moving. You have to keep moving forward. You have to keep moving towards the next day, the next horizon, next one, because everything behind them is being destroyed. And I thought it would be kind of cool to have like a nomadic caravan traveling community hunting gathering, need to set up a temporary location to then pick up and keep moving. And I always thought that would be kind of cool. I should try to get you on Sci-Fi for Me TV. I'm one of the mods. Always interesting to hear from devs from various perspectives. I have never heard of Sci-Fi for Me TV. Uh, give me tell me more. That sounds cool. I don't know. I'm sure you probably have far more brilliant individuals related to that, but I'd love to embrace it. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm gonna look it up not right now. Cool. Jason Hunt interviews genre creators and offers commentary and critiques of current events connected to sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. Why have I not? Seriously, dude, you should have punched me in the face with this a long time ago. I you seriously. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, yeah. We had Heidi Gygax. What? Luminaries? Really? That's so cool. Okay, so here we go. Here is the here's the link. Yeah, I looked at it. It seems woefully undersubbed. I agree with you. Bam. There's the link. Anybody finds that link? You know what? Maybe we might do a. I haven't reached out to a number of people that have like low sub. My channel's not that large, but I would love to put out like low sub people and gather them together. Side note: I always thought it would be cool to have like a creators conclave of a number of low subbed people to gather together to let the high tide float all ships. So from dozens to 3, 4, 5,000 subs ish, which is low in the YouTube space arena, Twitch arena, and whatnot. And then all of us would be able to rise each other up, interview each other, cross contaminate kind of thing. I don't know. I've always thought it would be kind of cool to have like a clubhouse kind of effect. Like, hey, we're all part of the same group and whatnot. I don't, it would take a lot of work to get it done, but whatever. Anyway, guys, let me let you guys go. You don't need to be here. You guys get out of here. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I already said goodbye, but I'm saying it again. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow. Next week, we'll do science fiction, Obsidian Star, and then after that, I'm holding in my back pocket, maybe have some fun with the United States, some of the weirdness that's in the states themselves, some of the history even, because there's whole channels dedicated to that. So, guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. One last comment here. To tell you what, I think I'm on your Discord. I can DM you if you want. We love different viewpoints and stuff. I am open. Absolutely. Hell yeah. Why the hell not? I'm zen about this kind of stuff. You could ask me anything, anywhere, anytime. I have no qualms about doing that kind of stuff and having an open and um having open discussions. And to be honest with you, one of my dreams is to assemble people who don't agree with me and to have like a push and pull back and forth. I would think that would be amazing. He said, dude, I love when I can catch it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, most people are busy. So the fact that, especially if you're stateside, it's just amazing that you guys are even here. So I just find that it's just remarkable to me. So I really appreciate it. So let me let you go. We'll listen. We'll talk. And no pressure, but yeah, we'll talk. We'll hook up. Good to see you guys. So guys, have a great day. I'll see you later. Peace. Bye.